everyone. So again, I'm here with the second part of the important MCQs for Himachal Pradesh exam, Himachal Pradesh Judicial Services exam. So in the last video, we had discussed 50 questions. Now rest of the 50 questions we'll be discussing in this video. So these questions are important for all those who are appearing for the upcoming Himachal Judiciary exam. And they are basically ये जो हमने पूरा 100 क्वेश्चन का जो एक सेट बनाया, it is a kind of sample paper for the HPJS exam. So it covers the questions from major laws, minor laws, local laws, special laws, etc. So let's discuss. So last video में we had discussed the question number 1 से लेके question number 50 तक. So today from 51 to 100, again most important 50 questions for your exam. So let's start with question number 1 for this video. Question number 51. Which of the following is not true about the rule of lis pendens? So lis pendens is a concept from Transfer of Property Act. So Transfer of Property Act segment के questions हम deal कर रहे हैं. So section 52 of TPA deals with the concept of lis pendens, which is based upon the principle of pendente lite nihil innoviter. That means nothing new should be introduced or nothing new should be done in a property upon which a suit or a dispute is pending. So a property which is the subject matter or a dispute in a suit should not be transferred during the pendency of the suit. That is lis pendens. So हमें बताना है that which one of them is not the essential condition for the application of section 52, that is lis pendens. A. Any suit or proceeding should be pending in any court. ये होता है. So this is an ingredient. Second, any suit or proceeding should be pending in any court having authority. So the court should be having the jurisdiction. ये भी ingredient है. हमें बताना है कौन सा नहीं है. First two तो है. Third one is the suit or proceeding pending may be collusive. So this is not the ingredient of section 52 because it states that the suit should not be collusive. यहाँ पे लिखा है may be collusive. Fourth option भी पढ़ लेते हैं. In the suit or proceeding, any right to immovable property should be directly in question. This is also an ingredient. So चारों में से option C is not an essential condition for the application of lis pendens. Therefore, the answer to this question is option C, based upon section 52, that is lis pendens of TPA. So this is about the conditions which are mentioned in section 52 of TPA. Question number 52 पे आएंगे. Where a gift consists of the donor's whole property, the donee is personally liable for all the debts due by the donor at the time of gift to the extent of the property comprised therein. It may be described as. इस concept को क्या बोला जाता है वो हमें बताना है. We all know that this concept is known as the concept of universal donee, which has been given under section 128 of the Transfer of Property Act. ये onerous gift नहीं है. बिकॉज वनरस गिफ्ट का मतलब होता है कि अगर आपको एक गिफ्ट के अंदर बहुत सारी चीजें दी गई हैं जिसमें से कुछ एडवांटेजेस है कुछ डिसएडवांटेजेस है, यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट ऑल. यू कैन नॉट एक्सेप्ट दैट विच इज बेनिफिशियल टू यू. सो यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट एवरीथिंग. दैट इज वनरस गिफ्ट. एक्सचेंज इज गिवन अंडर सेक्शन 118 which says that whenever there is a transfer of property in exchange of another property is known as exchange. Universal donee का जो definition है, it is given in the question. And again we have transfer of actionable claim which is dealt under section 130. So the answer to this question is option C, universal donee. So option C is the correct answer. Section 128 talks about the concept of universal donee. Next देखेंगे, a gift comprising of both the existing and future property is void as to the latter. As to the latter means as to the future property, because as per the concept of gift under section 122 of TPA, the gift or the subject matter of the gift should be a present property and not a future property. It should be an existing property. That is why the gift as to the future property is void. This statement has been provided under which section? Section 123, section 122, 121 or 124. So as per ये direct question है from the Bail Act, section based question. As per the provision of the Bail Act, the answer is option D. 124 provides for this rule that the future gift or the gift of future property is void. So option D is the correct answer for this question. Question number 54 देखते हैं. A has shares in X, a prosperous joint stock company, and also shares in Y, a joint stock company in difficulties. So X company is a beneficial company and Y company is the disadvantage here. Heavy calls are expected in respect of the sharers in Y. A gives B all his shares in the joint stock companies. That means the gift which has been made here is relating to, or the transfer which has been made here is relating to the shares of both the companies. One is beneficial, another one is not beneficial. So B refuses to accept the shares in Y company because Y is under the difficulty and heavy calls are expected. So उसने Y वाला जो share है वो लेने से मना कर दिया. Can he do so? That is the question. That whether this refusal will be allowed or not. Option A. B cannot take the shares in X. Option B. B is not bound to take shares in the X. He can only take shares in Y. Option C. B is not bound to take the shares in Y. He can only take shares in X. Yeah, option D, none of the above. So as per this question, the correct answer is option A. That if a complete transfer is being made to him, he has to accept it as it is. He cannot break the transfer. He cannot take something which is advantageous and he cannot refuse to take something which is a disadvantage. If he accepts one, he has to take the other also. So if he refuses to take one, he cannot have the other one also. तो अगर उसने Y को refuse किया है, then he cannot even take X. So for that purpose, the answer is A, and this is as per the rule. अभी जो हमने पहले वाले question में भी discuss किया, onerous gift, which is given under section 127 of Transfer of Property Act. So the answer is A. Next, question number 55 पे आएंगे. Choose the correct statements. Statement number 1. Sale is a transfer of ownership in exchange for a price paid or promised, or part paid or part promised. ये बिल्कुल ठीक है, because section 54 of TPA states about this. Statement number 2 देखते हैं. Delivery of intangible immovable property takes place when the seller places the buyer or such person as he directs in the possession of the property. Now this statement looks wrong because यहाँ पे intangible property लिखा है. You cannot have physical possession of something which is intangible, because intangible means something which cannot be physically felt or touched. So this statement is not correct. Third देखते हैं. A contract for the sale of immovable property is a contract that a sale of such property shall take place on the terms settled between the parties. Contract for sale, that means terms आज settle हुए हैं future sale के लिए. This has also been given under section 54 and this is correct. Statement number 4 देखते हैं. In case of intangible immovable property of value less than 100 rupees, such transfer may be made either by a registered instrument or by delivery of the property. So जब हम बात करते हैं intangible पे, तो उस पे ये rule apply नहीं होता है. तो section the statement number 4 also looks wrong. So here, as per the combinations which are being made here, the correct answer to this question is option B. 1 and 3 are correct, 2 and 4 are incorrect. So option B is the correct answer, and this answer is because of section 54. Section 54 के सारे principles, वही statements जो थे वो सारे principles थे section 54 के. So option B is the correct answer. Question number 56 देखेंगे. Section 53 capital A of Transfer of Property Act deals with? So this is also a direct question because it is a section based question, and we know that 53 capital A deals with the doctrine of part performance, because जब बात करते हैं fraudulent transfer की, it has been given under section 53, not 53 capital A. Also, transfer by ostensible owner has been dealt under section 41 of TPA, or none of the above. तो यहाँ पे the answer will be A, direct question. Option A is the correct answer, and this is the bare provision, section 53 capital A, that is part performance of Transfer of Property Act. Next question देखेंगे, which of the following is not conditional transfer under the Transfer of Property Act? अब now when we look at the term conditional transfer, तो हमारे सामने सबसे पहले जो provision आता है, that is Section 25 of Transfer of Property Act. Section 25 of Transfer of Property Act deals with the conditions which are either impossible or are unlawful. So basically let's look at these illustrations और देखते हैं कि किस पे Section 25 का जो conditional transfer है वो fit नहीं हो रहा है. First, A lets a farm to be on a condition that he shall walk 100 miles in 1 hour. The lease is void. This is a conditional transfer. ये correct है. ये conditional transfer है. Why? Because यहाँ पे जो condition है that is impossible. An impossible condition अगर किसी transfer पे लगाई जाती है, the transfer is void as per section 25 of TPA. Next देखते हैं. A gives rupees 500 to be on a condition that he shall marry A's daughter C. At the date of transfer, C was dead. The transfer is void. Again, impossible condition. So you cannot marry a person who is already dead. So basically this is also an impossible condition. So ये void होगा. Correct. A transfers rupees 500 to be on a condition that she shall murder C. The transfer is voidable. So यहाँ पे condition जो लगाई गई है regarding murder, the condition is regarding an unlawful act. It should be void, not voidable. So option C यहाँ पे is not a conditional transfer as per the rules of Transfer of Property Act, because conditional transfer under section 25 renders the transfer as void, not voidable. तो ये आंसर मुझे सही लग रहा है इस क्वेश्चन का. नेक्स्ट भी देखते हैं. A transfers rupees 500 to his niece C if she will desert her husband. The transfer is void. Again, conditional transfer है ये भी. So the correct answer, that means the transaction which is not a conditional transfer, is option C, because there it has been written voidable. So as per section 25 TPA, the correct answer is option C, because conditional transfer अगर as per section 25 condition या तो unlawful है या तो impossible है, then the transfer is always void, not voidable. So the correct option is C. Question number 58 देखेंगे. Choose the correct statements. अब ये proposition वाला question है. Let's see all the propositions. Either the tenant or landlord can apply to the controller to fix the standard rent of building or rented land. This is correct. ये statement as per the Rent Control Act, this statement is correct. In case of residential buildings, the standard rent is based on 10% of the aggregate cost of construction and the market price of the land at the time of construction. This is also correct as per the rule. The rent calculated is then increased by 10% for every year since the construction to adjust it to the present year. This is also correct. Last is, in the case of non-residential buildings, the standard rent shall be fixed on the basis of 10% of the aggregate cost of construction and the market price of the land at the time of the construction. ये जो fourth वाला proposition है, this looks incorrect. Why? Because here the rate mentioned is 10%, which is not as per the provision. तो अभी हम देखते हैं कि इसमें से क्या होगा. As per अभी जो हमने देखा उसके according 1, 2 and 3 are correct, but 4 is incorrect. So option C looks correct यहाँ पे. Let's see. So option C is the correct answer, and this is as per section 4 of the Rent Act, which talks about the determination of standard rent. और इसका जब आप clause 1 देखते हो तो इसका ending में देखेंगे, however in case of non-residential building, the standard rent shall be fixed on the basis of not 10%, 15%. Preposition में 10% दिया गया था. That is why preposition number 4 is incorrect. So as per section 4, option C is the correct answer here. Question number 59 पे आएंगे. Question number 59 is under section 6 of the Himachal Pradesh Urban Rent Control Act. The standard rent increased under this section, under this subsection 6 clause 1 shall not exceed dash percent of the cost of addition, improvement, alteration, etc. अब यहाँ पे section 6 की बात की गई है. That means हम उस section की बात कर रहे हैं जहां पे दिया गया है कि अगर कोई alteration किया गया है या कोई addition किया गया है, improvement किया गया है, then the enhancement of the rent can be done, but that has to be up to a certain level. So कितना हो सकता है वो पूछा गया है यहाँ पे. So the correct answer here, जब हम बात करते हैं section 6 की, which talks about the increase in standard rent in certain cases are cases of alteration, addition, improvement, etc. So the answer here is 10%, that it should not exceed 10% of the cost of such alteration, which has been given under section 6 proviso. जब आप section 6 का proviso देखोगे तो उसमें दिया गया है that the standard rent increased under this subsection shall not exceed 10% of the cost of addition, alteration, etc. So the answer is option A, 10%. All right. Next, question number 60. Section 7 of Himachal Urban Rent Control Act specifies that any agreement for rent in excess of the standard rent is A, allowed if it is signed by the parties, valid if it is in writing, null and void, या फिर subject to the approval of the municipal authority. So as per section 7, we clearly know that the answer is option C, that is such an agreement will be null and void. So option C is the correct answer, which has been clearly given in section 7. All right, this is given under section 7 proviso. जब आप इसका proviso देखोगे, declares such an agreement to be null and void. यहाँ पे दिया गया है कि वो null and void होगा. Question number 61 देखेंगे. Question number 61. Choose the correct statement. Now again preposition and assertion वाला question आया है. So the landlord shall claim or receive any rent in excess of the standard rent. कि standard rent के excess में landlord excess rent claim कर सकता है. ये बोला गया है इस preposition के अंदर, which does not seem or look correct. All right, it looks wrong. Second क्या दिया गया? No landlord shall, in consideration of the grant, renewal, continuance of a tenancy, subtenancy of any building, rented land, claim over or receive payment of any premium, pagdi, fine, advance or any other like sum in addition to the rent. All right, यहाँ पे अब ये दोनों prepositions they are quite opposite of each other. यहाँ बोला जा रहा है first वाले में कि excess claim किया जा सकता है और second वाले में बोला जा रहा है excess में कभी claim नहीं करेंगे. And as per the language of the provision, we know that the landlord is not allowed to claim in excess. So second one is correct, but the first one is incorrect. So option B looks the correct answer here. That second is correct and first is incorrect. Let's check. Option B is the correct answer and this is as per section 8 of the Rent Control Act. All right. सेक्शन 8 का जब आप क्लॉज 1 और क्लॉज 2 देखोगे, इसमें दिया नो लैंडलॉर्ड शैल क्लेम और प्रपोजिशन नंबर 1 में दिया था लैंडलॉर्ड शैल क्लेम. सो विच इज रॉन्ग. सो एज पर दिस ऑप्शन बी इज द करेक्ट आंसर. नेक्स्ट देखते हैं. नाउ वी हैव स्टार्टेड विद अनदर सेगमेंट नोन एज द नेगोशिएबल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स एक्ट एंड दिस सेक्शन इज अबाउट सेक्शन 139 ऑफ द एनआई एक्ट. अंडर सेक्शन 139 ऑफ द एनआई एक्ट, what presumption is made in the favor of the holder of the check? So we all know section 139 of the NI Act deals with a presumption and it is a shall presume provision. That means a rebuttable presumption. ये एक shall presume provision है. अब हमें बताना है that the presumption under section 139 is related to what subject matter. First, the holder received the check as a gift. No, that is not the presumption. The holder received the check for investment purpose. Again, incorrect. The holder received the check for the discharge of debt or liability. This is a correct option. या फिर the holder received the check for charitable purposes. This is also incorrect. The correct answer as per section 139 of NI Act is option C. Option C is correct, and this is as per section 139 of the NI Act. Option C is the correct answer here. Direct question है ये भी. Under section 142 of the NI Act, no court inferior to that of dash shall try the offence punishable under section 138, that is dishonor of check. सेक्शन 138 डिसऑनर ऑफ चेक का जो ऑफेंस है उसकी ट्रायबिलिटी किन किन कोर्ट्स के पास होगी, ये क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है, एंड द ट्रायबिलिटी ऑफ द कोर्ट्स हैज बीन गिवन अंडर सेक्शन 142. एंड एज पर सेक्शन 142 ऑफ द NI Act, लेट्स सी which one are the correct courts. So here out of the four, option C is the correct answer, that is Metropolitan Magistrate and Judicial Magistrate First Class. So option C is the correct answer, and this is as per section 142. देखोगे आप section 142 के अंदर, तो section 142 के अंदर ये जो clause C है यहाँ पे clearly दिया गया है, no court inferior to that of a Metropolitan Magistrate and the Judicial Magistrate First Class shall try any offence that is under section 138. So as per clause C, option C is the correct answer, the MM or the JMFC. Question number 64 देखते हैं. What does the debt of other liability, ये जो word है ये हम देखते हैं जब हम section 138 का जो explanation है वहां पे इसको explain किया गया है. So they are asking question from the explanation which is attached. क्या दिया गया है? What does the debt of other liability mean under section 138 of the Negotiable Instruments Act? A. Any financial obligation. B. Only debts related to loans. C. Any legally recoverable financial obligation. या D. Debts incurred through illegal means. So as per the explanation attached to section 138 of NI Act, the correct answer is legally enforceable obligation, financial obligation. देखो अगर आप explanation देखोगे तो the explanation of section 138 वहां पे clearly बोला गया है that the debt of other liability means legally enforceable debt or any other liability, जिसको यहाँ पे इन्होंने financial obligation बोला है. So the correct option here, the correct answer here is option C. क्वेश्चन नंबर 65 देखेंगे. क्वेश्चन नंबर 65 में क्या बोला गया है? विच एंटिटी determines the interest rate applicable to the interim compensation repayment in cases of acquittal under section 143 capital A of the NI Act. अब ये जो क्वेश्चन है section 143 capital A से, this is a question from a newly added provision. ये क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे पूछा क्यों गया है? बिकॉज दिस इज फ्रॉम द लेटेस्ट अमेंडमेंट डन इन द NI Act, दैट इज द अमेंडमेंट ऑफ 2018, एंड इन सच अमेंडमेंट द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ द इंटरिम कॉम्पेंसेशन वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड. सो हमें बताना है कि इंटरिम कॉम्पेंसेशन रीपेमेंट का जो इंटरेस्ट रेट होता है दैट इज एज पर the decision or as per कौन सी अथॉरिटी उसको डिसाइड करती है. So the correct answer here is option B, that is as per the standards of RBI, the interest rate for interim compensation repayment is determined. Section 143 capital A में क्या दिया गया है? देखो यहाँ पे क्या दिया गया है? With interest at the bank rate as published by the RBI. So RBI publishes the interest rate and according to that interest rate, the interest on the interim compensation is also calculated. So 143 capital A, the newly added principle of interim compensation, which was added in the amendment of 2018. So RBI, option B is the correct answer. Which of the following is not a member, अब हमें not बताना है, which of the following is not a member of the advisory committee as outlined in the PCPNDT Act. So हमें बताना है इनमें से कौन मेंबर नहीं होंगे कमिटी के. All right, 3 medical experts, 1 legal expert, 3 officers representing the Department of Information and Publicity, 3 prominent social workers with at least 1 being a representative of women organization. So यहाँ पे ये जो option C है, the 3 officers representing the Department of Information and Publicity, ये नहीं होते हैं कमिटी के अंदर. Option C is the correct answer. Option C is the correct answer as per section 17 of the PCPNDT Act, which talks about the constitution of the appropriate authority and the advisory committee, जिसमें ये सब members हैं और उसमें कहीं भी वो जो members 3 members की वहां पे बात की गई है, they are not there. What is the punishment for advertising sex determination techniques under the PCPNDT Act? इनमें से कौन सी punishment दी गई है under the provision which provides for the penalty for advertising the sex determination techniques, which is given under section 22 of the PCPNDT Act? तो यहां पे हमें देखना है कि कौन सी पेनल्टी या कौन सी इंप्रिजनमेंट सेक्शन 22 में दी गई है फॉर एडवर्टाइजिंग सेक्स डिटर्मिनेशन टेक्निक्स. द करेक्ट आंसर हियर इज ऑप्शन सी, दैट इज imprisonment up to 3 years, because in section 22, so any person who contravenes the provision of subsection 1 is the prohibition that advertising the sex determination technique is prohibited, और इस prohibition को जो contravene करेगा, that person shall be punishable with imprisonment which may extend to 3 years or with fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees. और यहाँ पे 3 years की imprisonment के बारे में बोला गया है. So option C is the correct answer here. Direct question. Next, question number 68 देखेंगे. Under section 167 CRPC. Now we have started with the segment of CRPC. Section 167 CRPC deals with the concept of remand. It is one of the most important topic of CRPC when we talk about the exam. Prelims के लिए भी, mains के लिए भी, and even for interview. Because section 167 talks about remand or custody. Police custody, judicial custody, total custody. उसके time periods वहां पे दिए गए हैं, and the very famous concept of default bail is also dealt under section 167 CRPC. So it is a very important principle. क्या दिया गया है under section 167 CRPC? The maximum period of police custody. अब यहाँ पे आपको बहुत क्लियरली देखना है कि यहाँ पे इन्होंने टोटल कस्टडी, जुडिशियल कस्टडी नहीं पूछी है, यहाँ पे इन्होंने बोला है पुलिस कस्टडी के बारे में कि टोटल कस्टडी में पुलिस कस्टडी मैक्सिमम कितने टाइम की दी जा सकती है ऑफ एन अरेस्टेड पर्सन. So we all know as per section 167 clause 2, the police custody which can be given to an arrested person is maximum 15 days. Maximum 15 days की पुलिस custody दी जा सकती है under section 167. So option C is the correct answer here. And this is as per, as I just mentioned, section 167 clause 2, जहां पे बोला गया है that the police custody shall not exceed 15 days in the whole. तो maximum 15 दिन की पुलिस custody दी जा सकती है. That is the answer to this question, 15 days. Question number 69 देखेंगे. The power to direct the tender of pardon under section 307. यहाँ पे 307 का tender of pardon पूछा गया है. So the power to direct the tender of pardon under section 307. So when we look at the concept of tender of pardon, section 306, 307 and 308 talks about the tender of pardon. हम यहाँ पे सिर्फ 307 को रेफर कर रहे हैं. the direction to the power to direct tender of pardon under section 307 CRPC is available to. So as per, ये भी अब direct question है, as per the language of section 307, the answer will be the committal court. So the committal court has the power to direct the tender of pardon under section 307. Option B is the correct answer. देखो क्या दिया गया, at any time after the commitment or committal of the case, but before the judgment is passed, the court to which the commitment is made. तो ये टेंडर ऑफ पार्डन कौन कर रहे हैं, वो कोर्ट जिनको कमिटल किया गया है, दैट मीन्स द कमिटल कोर्ट. इसीलिए द आंसर इज ऑप्शन बी हियर एज पर द लैंग्वेज ऑफ सेक्शन 307. अगर आपको याद हो, मैंने लास्ट वीडियो में भी यही चीज रिपीट करी थी और आज भी यही चीज बोल रही हूं, that for prelims, Bayer Act is the key to success. Read the Bayer Act because just see, Bayer Act के किसी भी कॉर्नर में से, Bayer Act के किसी भी प्रोविजन के किसी भी कॉर्नर में से they may ask a question. जैसे एनआई में हमने देखा, उन्होंने एक्सप्लेनेशन में से क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया, यहां पे इन्होंने टाइप ऑफ कोड पूछ ली. So you have to be very thorough with the Bayer Act. You have to read the Bayer Act from cover to cover. Prelims के लिए there is no other alternative. You have to read the entire Bayer Act from cover to cover. You cannot even leave the amendments. You cannot leave the footnotes. You cannot leave the statement of object. You cannot leave the illustrations. You have to read the Bayer Act from cover to cover. That is the only key to success in the prelims examination. So please concentrate now. Let's come to the next question. Now we are talking about another question from the CRPC itself. Question number 70. Which of the following sections of CRPC provides the power of the court to convert summons cases into warrants cases? And we all know that this is a very special provision. क्योंकि पूरे CRPC में सिर्फ एक ही ऐसा प्रोविजन है जहां पे पावर दी गई है कोर्ट को एक समन केस को वारंट केस में कन्वर्ट करने की. So during the trial of a summons case, the court has the power to convert the summons case into a warrant case, and the offense should be punishable exceeding 6 months. So basically the conversion from the summons case to the warrants case can be done. And after the conversion, the court can now conduct the trial as per the provision or the procedure of the warrants case. And this power, the unique power, has been given under section 259 of CRPC. So option C is the correct answer. Again, a direct question. Option C, that is section 259, power of the court to convert summons cases into warrants cases. So 259 is the correct answer. Question number 71 पे आएंगे. Question number 71 deals with who may confer on any magistrate invested with the power of the magistrate of second class the power to try the case summarily. Summary trial करने की power एक judicial magistrate second class पे कौन सी court confer कर सकती है? Because summary trial करने की original power एक judicial magistrate second class के पास नहीं होती है. The power can be specially conferred upon the judicial magistrate second class. Now we have to tell which court confers such power to such judicial magistrate second class for the offense which is punishable only with fine or with imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months with or without fine, and any abatement or attempt to commit such offense as per section 261 of CRPC. So section 261 CRPC के according we all know that the answer is option A, High Court. Option A is the correct answer, which is given under section 261 of CRPC, that the High Court confers especially the power to try summarily the case upon, the power is conferred upon the judicial magistrate second class. So option A is the correct answer. Question number 72. Whoever is a party to a criminal conspiracy other than the criminal conspiracy to commit an offense punishable as aforesaid shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term not exceeding 6 months or with fine or with both. This statement is provided in which section? Very easy question. Very easy. यहाँ पे अब हम IPC के सेगमेंट में आ चुके हैं एंड डायरेक्ट सेक्शन बेस्ड क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे दिया गया है. We have to tell कि ये कौन से सेक्शन में क्रिमिनल कॉन्स्पिरेसी की पनिशमेंट दी गई है. We all know section 120 capital A defines the offense of criminal conspiracy and section 120 capital B punishes the offense of criminal conspiracy. So the punishment has been given under section 120 capital B. Option B is the correct answer. Section 120 capital B, that too clause 2 of 120 capital B deals with this statement. So basically आंसर हुआ इसका ऑप्शन बी 120 कैपिटल बी. डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन. व्हाट इज द मिनिमम नंबर ऑफ पर्सन्स रिक्वायर्ड टू कॉन्स्टिट्यूट द ऑफेंस ऑफ डेकॉइटी? नाउ वी ऑल नो दैट इज द ओनली डिफरेंस बिटवीन रॉबरी एंड डेकॉइटी. रॉबरी और डेकॉइटी में डिफरेंस ही नंबर ऑफ अक्यूज्ड का होता है, नंबर ऑफ पर्सन्स का होता है. दैट फॉर डेकॉइटी मिनिमम ऑफ 5 persons are required to commit the offense. So the answer is option D here. Option D is the correct answer. And this is as per section 391 of IPC, which defines dacoity, in which it has been clearly written that when 5 or more, that means minimum 5 तो होने ही चाहिए. And that is the difference between robbery and dacoity. The difference is regarding the number of persons committing the offense. Next देखते हैं. Question number 74 पे आएंगे. Which of the following is correctly matched? Now here they have given various exceptions given under section 300 of IPC. That means यहाँ पे exceptions to the offense of मर्डर की बात की गई है. यहां पे वी हैव बीन गिवन सर्टेन एक्सेप्शंस और उनके आगे उनका एक्सेप्शन नंबर दिया गया है. हमें बताना है कि इनमें से कौन सा करेक्टली मैच्ड है. ग्रेव एंड सडन प्रोवोकेशन, एक्सेप्शन 2 टू सेक्शन 300. नो, हमें पता है कि एक्सेप्शन 1 है, एक्सेप्शन 2 नहीं है, तो ये तो गलत है. डेथ कॉज्ड बाय सडन क्वारल, एक्सेप्शन 1 टू सेक्शन 300, ये भी गलत है बिकॉज वी नो दैट दिस इज एक्सेप्शन नंबर 4 नॉट 1. Death caused by consent, exception 5 to section 300. This is correct because we know death caused by consent is exception number 5 to section 300. Exceeding the rights, that is private defense, exception 4 to section 300. ये भी गलत है, हमें पता है कि exception number 2 है. So यहाँ पे whatever is correctly matched हमें वो आंसर बताना है. So हमारे according the correct answer is option C. That is death caused by consent, exception number 5 to section 300. बहुत easy question, again direct question. Match the following base question. All right, option C is the correct answer. Again match the following वाला जो question है. Let's match them. So these are certain sections from the IPC. क्या दिया गया है? एक्ट डन बाय अ पर्सन बाउंड और बाय मिस्टेक ऑफ फैक्ट बिलीविंग हिमसेल्फ टू बी बाउंड बाय लॉ. सो एक्ट डन अंडर अ मिस्टेक ऑफ फैक्ट, और ये बाउंड वाली मिस्टेक है. दैट मीन्स हम सेक्शन 76 वाला मिस्टेक ऑफ फैक्ट की बात कर रहे हैं. सो फर्स्ट का क्या होगा? सेक्शन 76 डी. तो इसके आगे लिख देते हैं 1 या इसके आगे लिख देते हैं डी. ऑल राइट. Then next is act done in good faith for the benefit of the person without consent. So we all know this is given under section 92. So A. Then abetment of mutiny if mutiny is committed in consequence thereof. We all know that has been given under section 132, that is C. And last is public nuisance. Very common, section 268, that is option B. DACB is the correct sequence. देखते हैं DACB कहाँ है? DACB है option B के अंदर. DACB. So option B is the correct answer here. Direct match the column. Option B is the correct answer. And ये basic section number based है. जो हमने मैच करके अपने परफेक्ट कॉम्बिनेशन बना लिए. Okay, now this is from the illustration. I have just mentioned that you have to read the Bayer Act from cover to cover. You cannot skip the illustrations, you cannot skip the footnotes also, because you never know from which corner they are going to ask the question. And this is the example. This is an exact illustration from the Bayer Act of Indian Penal Code. And this is a question from the illustration, and they have not even changed. यहाँ पे illustration का जो name है, details है, वो भी change नहीं हुए. Exact illustration है ये. क्या दिया गया है? A being Z's servant and entrusted by Z with the care of Z's plate. A जो है, A is Z's servant. Z ने A को एक प्लेट entrust की है कि इसको आप लो और इसका ध्यान रखो for taking care. Z, now what did A do? जिसको प्लेट दी गई है, the servant A, he dishonestly runs away with the plate without the consent of Z, without the consent of his master. जो प्लेट उसको entrust की गई थी for taking care, he ran away with that plate dishonestly. Now what offense has been committed here by A? अब जनरली क्या होता है, जैसे ही हमारे सामने ये वर्ड आता है entrustment, सीधा हमारे माइंड में क्या स्ट्राइक होता है? दिस इज क्रिमिनल ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट. एंड यस, दिस कैन बी क्रिमिनल ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट, बट क्रिमिनल ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट इज नॉट एन ऑप्शन. यहां पे ऑप्शन जो दिया गया है वो दिया गया है थेफ्ट, क्रिमिनल मिसएप्रोप्रिएशन, एक्सटॉर्शन, बोथ ए एंड बी. सो द करेक्ट आंसर हियर एज पर द बेयर एक्ट इज थेफ्ट, दैट इज ए. बिकॉज एक मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी को जब आप आउट ऑफ पोजेशन, इवन दो आपको वो प्रॉपर्टी एंट्रस्ट की गई थी, बट स्टिल even though it was in the physical possession of the servant, but it was entrusted by the master, that means still the property was in the constructive possession of the master. So here the answer will be theft. Criminal misappropriation, extortion नहीं होगा. So here अगर यहाँ पे क्रिमिनल ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट होता तो हम क्रिमिनल ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट भी ऑप्शन कर सकते थे. अगर यहाँ पे क्रिमिनल मिसएप्रोप्रिएशन की जगह क्रिमिनल ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट होता तो हम उसको चूज कर सकते थे, बट यहाँ पे क्रिमिनल ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट इज नॉट एन ऑप्शन. सो थेफ्ट. द आंसर इज ऑप्शन ए, दैट इज सेक्शन 378 थेफ्ट. और उसी सेक्शन का इलस्ट्रेशन नंबर डी एग्जैक्टली उठा के दिया गया है. दैट मीन्स एग्जैक्टली द सेम थिंग हैज बीन गिवन इन द इलस्ट्रेशन, दैट दिस इलस्ट्रेशन कैन बी an illustration in criminal breach of trust, and this is also an illustration in the concept of theft. Criminal breach of trust question नहीं, option में नहीं है, but theft का ये एक express illustration है. So the answer will be A, theft. Question number 77 देखते हैं. What is the penalty for unlawful production, manufacturing, possession, import, export, transport, sale, etc. under the Himachal Pradesh Excise Act? अब यहाँ पे आपको बहुत सारे imprisonments and fines का combination दिया गया है. We have to check कि exact इस act की जो penalty है ये कौन सी वाली है. So let's just see that section 39, सबसे पहले तो हमें पता होना चाहिए ये penalty कहाँ दी गई है. It has been given under section 39 of the Excise Act. अब आते हैं पेनाल्टीज पे. सो एन इम्प्रिजनमेंट फॉर अ टर्म विच में एक्सटेंड टू 3 years एंड विथ फाइन विच में एक्सटेंड टू 2 lakh rupees इज द करेक्ट आंसर हियर. बिकॉज सेक्शन 39 में हम देखेंगे कि सेक्शन 39 में जो क्लॉज सी है उसके बाद दिया गया है फॉर ऑल दोज एक्ट्स द पर्सन शैल बी पनिशेबल with imprisonment extending to 3 years with fine which may extend to 2 lakh but shall not be less than 5 lakh rupees, 5,000 rupees. All right, तो extending up to 2 lakh. तो ये ऑप्शन में दिया गया था. So answer is option A. 3 years imprisonment up to 2 lakh rupees of fine under section 39 of the HP Excise Act. Section 79 of the Himachal Pradesh Excise Act deals with first, weights, measure and testing instruments. This is not the correct answer. Protection of action taken in good faith. This is the correct answer. Power of the collector to take grants under the management or resale or recovery deficiency. No. पेनल्टी इन ल्यू ऑफ कॉन्फिस्केशन. सो डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन पूछा गया सेक्शन 79 में से. सेक्शन 79 प्रोवाइड्स अ प्रोटेक्शन to the action which is taken by the officers of the state government or any authority. If the action is taken under good faith, then a protection to those officers or to those acts have been given under section 79. So the answer is option B here. Section 79 provides for protection of action done in good faith. Direct question. Which of the following is not allowed under section 23 of the Himachal Pradesh Excise Act regarding the sale of liquor? क्या अलाउड नहीं है सेक्शन 23 के अंडर, हमें ये बताना है. सो एज वी नो सेक्शन 23 में सेलिंग लिकर फ्रॉम अ लाइसेंस्ड लोकेशन इज अलाउड. सो ये आंसर नहीं होगा क्योंकि हमें क्या बताना है, विच एवर इज नॉट अलाउड, दिस इज अलाउड. Allowing public consumption of liquor without license. So the public consumption of liquor without license is not allowed under section 23. So this is the correct answer. But बाकी के options पढ़ेंगे हम. Selling liquor at a location other than the specified in the license is allowed. Selling foreign liquor by a person after quitting a station is also allowed. So the answer here, that something which is not allowed under section 23 of the Excise Act, HP Excise Act, is allowing the consumption of liquor at public places. देखो इसका जो clause 3 है वो दिया गया है, no person shall allow the consumption of liquor at any public place except under the authority of a license, that it is not allowed. All right, so answer क्या था, which is not allowed. So this is not allowed as per clause 3 of section 23. So option B is the correct answer here. Okay, आगे देखेंगे. Question number 80. Under section 24 of the Himachal Pradesh Excise Act, who is prohibited from adulterating the liquor? Adulteration के against जो prohibition है, the prohibition is applicable upon what persons? वो हमें बताना है. A. Only the licensed vendor. B. The licensed vendor and their employees and agents. This is correct as per section 24. आगे भी देख लेते हैं. Only the person purchasing? No. Only government authorities? No. So the vendor as well as the agent or the representative of the vendor is the correct answer here. इनके ऊपर prohibition against adulteration is applicable. That is given under section 24. So the option is B. Option B is the correct answer here. All right. No licensed vendor and no person in the employment of such vendor or acting on his behalf. That means agent or employee. So basically 24 के according option B is the correct answer here. 81 देखते हैं. Which among the following come under the meaning of the word workplace? Under the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013. अब डेफिनेशन में इनमें से क्या नहीं दिया गया है हमें वो बताना है और उसके करेक्ट कॉम्बिनेशंस देखने. क्या वर्क प्लेस की डेफिनेशन में एनी प्राइवेट सेक्टर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन फॉल होता है? यस. क्या वर्क प्लेस की डेफिनेशन में हॉस्पिटल्स एंड नर्सिंग होम्स फॉल होते हैं? यस. क्या वर्क प्लेस की डेफिनेशन में प्राइवेट फ्लैट ऑफ एम्प्लॉई कवर होगा? No, that is not a workplace. That is a private residence. क्या workplace की definition में sports institute, stadium, sports complex कवर होता है? Yes. क्या workplace की definition में dwelling house और a house कवर होता है? Yes. So 1, 2, 4 and 5. 3 नहीं होता है तो 1, 2, 4 and 5 include होता है. So the correct option here is option B. 1, 2, 4 and 5 because 3 is not a part of the definition of workplace which is given under section 2 clause O which defines the term workplace. इसमें आप देखोगे तो इसमें जहां पे अब देखो इसका clause 2 जहां पे प्राइवेट सेक्टर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन दिया गया है, clause 3 जहां पे हॉस्पिटल एंड नर्सिंग होम दिया गया है, क्लॉज 4 जहां पे स्पोर्ट्स इंस्टीट्यूट, स्टेडियम एक्सेट्रा दिया गया है, एंड क्लॉज 6 जहां पे ड्वेलिंग प्लेस और हाउस दिया गया है, प्राइवेट फ्लैट नहीं दिया गया है. सो ऑप्शन बी इज द करेक्ट आंसर. 1, 2, 4 एंड 5. क्वेश्चन नंबर 82 पे आते हैं. अंडर सेक्शन 13 ऑफ द पॉश एक्ट, पॉश एक्ट की बात हो रही है यहां पे. ऑल राइट, दैट इज सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट ऑफ विमेन एट वर्कप्लेस एक्ट ऑफ 2013. Within how many days from the completion of the inquiry which is done under section 11 of the POSH Act, इस इंक्वायरी के कंप्लीशन के बाद कितने दिन के अंदर अंदर इस इंक्वायरी की जो रिपोर्ट है वो सबमिट की जाएगी, दैट इज द क्वेश्चन. So within how many days from the date of completion of the inquiry should the internal committee or the local committee submits its report? Report submission के लिए कितना टाइम दिया होता है? So the answer here is 10 days from the date of completion of the inquiry, which is given under section 13 of the POSH Act. Section 13 clause 1 of the POSH Act देखोगे तो यहां दिया गया है within the period of 10 days. So the report is to be given from within a period of 10 days from the date of completion of the inquiry. So 10 days is the correct answer here, option A. Section is section 13 of the POSH Act. As per section 8 of Indian Forest Act 1927, which of the following is or are the powers of the forest settlement officer? Section 8 which talks about the powers of the forest settlement officer. इनमें से कौन सी powers forest settlement officer को section 8 ने confer की है, हमें वो बतानी है. First, the power to enter by himself or any officer authorized by him for the purpose upon the land and to survey, demarcate and make a map of the same. ये power दी गई है section 8 में. Second, the power of a civil court in the trial of the suit, ये भी दी गई है. So answer will be both A and B. So option D is the correct answer because as per section 8 ये दोनों powers यहाँ पे दी गई है. The power of entering into and the power of a civil court, दोनों यहाँ पे दी गई है. So the answer is both the powers, option D. क्वेश्चन नंबर 84 देखेंगे. क्वेश्चन नंबर 84 में बोला गया हाउ मेनी कैटेगरीज ऑफ फॉरेस्ट आर एस्टैब्लिश्ड अंडर द इंडियन फॉरेस्ट एक्ट. इंडियन फॉरेस्ट एक्ट में कितने कैटेगरीज ऑफ फॉरेस्ट हैं? वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन एंड द मोस्ट बेसिक क्वेश्चन. इफ यू आर अपियरिंग फॉर हिमाचल प्रदेश जुडिशरी फॉरेस्ट एक्ट, अगर आप पढ़ रहे हो तो ये तो आपको पता होना ही चाहिए दैट देयर आर टोटल 3 कैटेगरीज ऑफ फॉरेस्ट which are mentioned in the act, and these categories are: first, the reserved forest; second, the protected forest; and third, the village forest. Reserved forest, protected forest and village forest. Option B, 3 categories is the correct answer. The most important question. Again, question number 85 देखेंगे. Under the Forest Act of 1927, forest produce includes timber, charcoal, mahua flowers, but does not include products like natural varnish or lac. This statement is true, false, can't say, or none of the above. So we all know as per the definition of forest produce, this statement is false because natural varnish and lac are also included. यहाँ पे लिखा है does not include, ये गलत है. So this statement is false and this is as per section 2 clause 4 of the Forest Act which defines the term forest produce. और जब आप देखते हो इसका clause, ये देखो क्या लिखा है, that it includes timber, charcoal, the caoutchouc and the catechu, wood, oil, resin, natural varnish, bark, lac. Natural varnish, bark और lac यहाँ पे दोनों included है. mahua flowers, mahua seeds, coot, myra, bolum and अब क्लॉज ए के अंदर नेचुरल वार्निश और लैक को यहाँ पे इंक्लूड किया गया है, डज नॉट इंक्लूड नहीं होगा. सो द स्टेटमेंट इज फॉल्स. ओके, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन नंबर 86. फॉर्मेशन ऑफ विलेज फॉरेस्ट आर डेल्ट बाय विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग सेक्शंस ऑफ द इंडियन फॉरेस्ट एक्ट. इंडियन फॉरेस्ट एक्ट के कौन से सेक्शन में फॉर्मेशन ऑफ विलेज फॉरेस्ट की बात की गई है. दिस इज अ डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन, सो द आंसर इज ऑप्शन बी, दैट इज सेक्शन 28 ऑफ द फॉरेस्ट एक्ट डील्स विद द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ विलेज फॉरेस्ट. और ये इसका बेयर सेक्शन दिया गया है, डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन, सेक्शन 28. ऑप्शन बी इज द करेक्ट आंसर हियर. नेक्स्ट देखेंगे क्वेश्चन नंबर 87. क्वेश्चन नंबर 87 में बोला गया है, नो सूट शैल लाई अगेंस्ट एनी पब्लिक सर्वेंट फॉर एनीथिंग डन बाय हिम इन गुड फेथ अंडर दिस एक्ट. दैट मीन्स प्रोटेक्शन फ्रॉम एनी एक्ट, प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एक्ट डन इन गुड फेथ. All right, and immunity from any action. So protection has been given to the acts of the officers done in good faith. So this protection has been given in which section of the Indian Forest Act? So the correct answer here is option B, that is section 74, which provides for, abhi maine bola jaise, an indemnity or an immunity from the act done in good faith. Section 74, option B is the correct answer here. Direct question. The National Tiger Conservation Authority means the Tiger Conservation Authority constituted under section. Again direct question. हमने देखा फॉरेस्ट वाइल्ड लाइफ एक्ट से जो क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं वो मोस्टली डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस हैं, बेयर एक्ट बेस्ड, सेक्शन बेस्ड. So you have to read those provisions, you have to read that particular law in that manner. सेक्शंस पे फोकस करो फॉरेस्ट एंड वाइल्ड लाइफ एक्ट के, बिकॉज दे आर इंपॉर्टेंट. सो हियर यहां पे अगेन सेक्शन पूछा गया है इन विच द नेशनल टाइगर कंजर्वेशन अथॉरिटी हैज बीन डेल्ट. सो द आंसर हियर इज ऑप्शन बी, दैट इज सेक्शन 38L. सेक्शन 38 कैपिटल L डील्स विद द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ नेशनल टाइगर कंजर्वेशन अथॉरिटी. सो डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है सेक्शन 38L पे, और ये सेक्शन 38L जो है वो बेयर फर्स्ट क्लॉज इसका दिया गया है. क्वेश्चन नंबर 89 देखते हैं. सेक्शन 38 कैपिटल J ऑफ द वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1972 डील्स विथ, अगेन डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है, 38 कैपिटल J किससे डील करता है वो पूछा गया है. सो हियर द आंसर इज ऑप्शन बी, दैट इट डील्स विथ प्रोहिबिशन ऑफ टीजिंग एटसेट्रा इन अ जू. So, section 38 capital J deals with the prohibition of teasing etc. in a zoo. Option B is the correct answer here. Direct section based question this is. Question number 90 पे आएंगे. Now this is also about Wildlife Protection Act and it says, according to section 35 of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, which factors can justify the declaration of an area as a national park? So for declaring an area as a national park, what are the factors to be considered? हमें वो बताने. First, the fauna, germophology and the zoological importance of the area. ये होता है. The flora, ऊपर वाले में fauna लिखा है, दूसरे वाले में flora लिखा है, rest or everything is same. The flora, germophology and zoological importance of the area, ये भी बिल्कुल ठीक है क्योंकि सेक्शन 35 में दोनों दिया गया है, फ्लोरा फौना. तो अब जब हम ऑप्शन सी को देखते हैं तो उसमें हमें दोनों एक साथ मिल गए, फ्लोरा फौना जर्मोफोलॉजी जूलॉजिकल इंपॉर्टेंस. ये ज्यादा अप्रोप्रिएट लग रहा है. या फिर डी, द फाइनेंशियल बेनिफिट्स. सो हियर द करेक्ट आंसर इज ऑप्शन सी, जिसमें सारी चीजें कॉम्प्रिहेंसिवली दी गई हैं. Flora, fauna, germophology and zoological importance. So option C is the correct answer and this is as per section 35 clause 1 which talks about declaration of any place as a national park. जहां पे आप देखोगे सारी चीजें दी गई है यहाँ पे, fauna, flora, germophological and zoological association सारी चीजें डील की गई है. तो most comprehensive option was option C, which is the correct answer here. क्वेश्चन नंबर 91 देखेंगे. क्वेश्चन नंबर 91 में दिया गया है, हाउ मेनी मेंबर्स एक्सक्लूडिंग द चेयरपर्सन एंड मेंबर सेक्रेटरी कैन द सेंट्रल जू अथॉरिटी हैव एज पर सेक्शन 38 कैपिटल A ऑफ द वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट. सो कितने मेंबर्स होते हैं? लेट्स सी. इसमें सेक्शन 38 कैपिटल A क्लियरली सेज दैट अपार्ट फ्रॉम द चेयरपर्सन or the member secretary, such number of members not exceeding 10. तो इसके अकॉर्डिंग द करेक्ट आंसर विल बी ऑप्शन बी, नो मोर देन 10 members. This is a direct question from section 38 capital A of the Wildlife Act. Option B is the correct answer, not exceeding 10. Question number 92 देखते हैं. Every offence punishable under this act shall be cognizable and non-bailable within the meaning of the Code of Criminal Procedure. This statement is provided under which section of the Wildlife Protection Act? तो कौन से इनमें से सेक्शन है जिसके अंदर द नेचर ऑफ द ऑफेंस अंडर द वाइल्ड लाइफ एक्ट में जितने भी ऑफेंसेस हैं वो सारे के सारे कॉग्निजेबल और नॉन बेलेबल होंगे एंड दे विल बी ट्रायबल बाय द कोर्ट ऑफ सेशन. ऐसा कौन सा? कोर्ट ऑफ सेशन वाली बात क्वेश्चन में नहीं दी गई है बट उस प्रोविजन में लिखा है वाइल्ड लाइफ एक्ट के. सो वी ऑल नो दैट ऑप्शन सी इज द करेक्ट आंसर हियर, दैट इज सेक्शन 51 कैपिटल बी. बिकॉज सेक्शन 51 कैपिटल बी ऑफ द वाइल्ड लाइफ एक्ट ने बोला है कि कॉग्निजेबल होंगे ऑफेंसेस, नॉन बेलेबल होंगे एंड दे विल बी ट्रायबल बाय द कोर्ट ऑफ सेशन. क्वेश्चन नंबर 93 देखेंगे. अब यहां पे पूछा गया है द एम्बिट ऑफ द टर्म चाइल्ड अंडर द डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट. डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट के सेगमेंट पे हम आए. दैट द एम्बिट ऑफ द टर्म चाइल्ड अंडर द डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट डज नॉट कवर. इनमें से कौन सा टाइप ऑफ चाइल्ड की डेफिनेशन में अंडर द डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट कवर नहीं होगा. डज नॉट कवर पूछा है. सो वी ऑल नो दैट सेक्शन 2 ऑफ द डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट डिफाइंस द टर्म चाइल्ड which includes stepchild, adopted child, foster child, but not illegitimate child. ये कवर नहीं होता है. तो ऑप्शन सी इज द करेक्ट आंसर. जब हम इसकी डेफिनेशन देखते हैं तो देखो इधर दिया भी गया है, एनी पर्सन बिलो द एज ऑफ 18 years इंक्लूडिंग अडॉप्टेड, स्टेप एंड फॉस्टर चाइल्ड. इलेजिटिमेट चाइल्ड यहां पे कवर नहीं होगा. सो ऑप्शन सी इज द करेक्ट आंसर, इलेजिटिमेट चाइल्ड. क्वेश्चन नंबर 94 देखेंगे. नो सूट, प्रोसिक्यूशन और अदर प्रोसीडिंग शैल लाई अगेंस्ट द प्रोसिक्यूशन ऑफ द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफिसर फॉर एनी डैमेज कॉज्ड और लाइकली टू बी कॉज्ड बाय एनीथिंग विच इज इन गुड फेथ डन और इंटेंडेड टू बी डन अंडर दिस एक्ट और एनी रूल और ऑर्डर मेड देयर अंडर. सो ये जो अगेन प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एक्शन डन इन गुड फेथ की यहां पे बात हो रही है, विच इज गिवन टू द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफिसर. प्रोटेक्शन ऑफिसर कहां होते हैं? अंडर द डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट. सो वी हैव टू टेल इन विच सेक्शन द प्रोटेक्शन हैज बीन गिवन टू द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफिसर फॉर द एक्ट डन इन गुड फेथ. सो द करेक्ट आंसर हियर इज ऑप्शन बी, दैट इज सेक्शन 35 which deals with the protection of action done in good faith and the protection is given to the protection officer. Section 35. Again, a direct question. Question number 95 देखेंगे. What is the minimum experience required for the principal magistrate to be a part of the Juvenile Justice Board under the JJ Act? अब हम JJ Act के segment पे आ चुके. So, JJ Board के अंदर principal magistrate जो होंगे, जो या तो मेट्रोपॉलिटन मैजिस्ट्रेट होते हैं या जेएमएफसी होते हैं, तो उनको मिनिमम कितने इयर्स का एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए होता है? सो द आंसर हियर इज 3 years बिकॉज सेक्शन 4 ऑफ द जेजे एक्ट डील्स विद द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ जेजे बोर्ड और यहां पे क्लियरली दिया गया है अंडर क्लॉज 2 कि द प्रिंसिपल मैजिस्ट्रेट हु कैन बी ईदर द मेट्रोपॉलिटन मैजिस्ट्रेट और द जुडिशियल मैजिस्ट्रेट फर्स्ट क्लास, he should have an experience of at least 3 years. So 3 years is the correct answer, option C. All right. Question number 96 देखेंगे. How often should the open shelters, again JJ Act का question है, how often should the open shelters send information about children availing their services to the District Child Protection Unit? डिस्ट्रिक्ट चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन यूनिट को जो एक रिपोर्ट भेजनी होती है, जो एक इंफॉर्मेशन भेजनी होती है बाय दी ओपन शेल्टर्स कि उनके सर्विसेज में अभी कितने चिल्ड्रन हैं, तो वो कितने टाइम में वो इंफॉर्मेशन भेजनी होती है? एवरी वीक, एवरी मंथ, एवरी 3 months, एवरी ईयर. सो द करेक्ट आंसर हियर इज एवरी मंथ, which has been given under section 43 of the JJ Act. Section 43 of the JJ Act deals with the mechanism and the concept of open shelters, जहां पे दिया गया है every month they are bound to give the information to the district child protection unit and the child welfare committee, the committee, that how many children are availing their services. So every month, option B is the correct answer here. Question number 97 पे आएंगे. Which of the following is not a key aspect of the judicial independence as per the Bangalore Principle of Judicial Conduct 2002? So this is also a segment from your syllabus in HP Judiciary exam. So इनमें से कौन सा aspect judicial independence का aspect नहीं है, वो हमें बताना. Freedom from external influence. Definitely this is an aspect of judicial independence, because a judicial officer should always be unbiased. He should always be, a judge should always be free from the external influence. Independence from the judicial colleagues. This is also an aspect, because internal influence, external influence, दोनों influence नहीं होने चाहिए. Dependence on public opinion. That is not an aspect of judicial independence, because an independent judiciary वही होगी which is unbiased, which is not affected by the public opinion. तो अगर dependence है upon the public opinion, that is not the aspect of judicial independence. Upholding the high standards of conduct is also an aspect. So the answer is option C, that it is not an aspect of judicial independence. Option C is the correct answer. और जब आप यहाँ पे देखोगे तो आपको यहाँ पे सारे जितने भी एस्पेक्ट्स या एप्लीकेशन है ऑफ द बैंगलोर कोड ऑफ जुडिशियल कंडक्ट 2002, उसके सारे पॉइंट्स यहाँ पे दिए गए हैं. बट द करेक्ट आंसर हियर इज ऑप्शन सी. डिपेंडेंस ऑन द पब्लिक ओपिनियन इज नॉट एन एस्पेक्ट ऑफ जुडिशियल इंडिपेंडेंस. उसके अलावा जितने एस्पेक्ट्स थे वो सारे के सारे इसके अंदर दिए गए हैं. ऑल राइट, ऑप्शन सी इज द करेक्ट आंसर. Question number 98 देखेंगे. Can a judge's spouse include someone other than the legally married partner? The answer यहाँ पे क्या होगा? Let's see. Options देखते हैं. No, only legally married spouses are included. Yes, it can include the domestic partner and someone in a close personal relationship. Yes, but only if they are living in the judge's household. Yeah, no, only individuals with a legal or blood relation to the judge are included. So as per the rule, we know that option B is the correct answer, because judge's spouse includes the domestic partner as well as someone who is in a close relationship with the judge. So this is given in the Bangalore Principle of Judicial Conduct 2002, that a judge's spouse includes domestic partner of the judge or any other partner of either sex in a closer personal relationship with that judge. So option B is the correct answer here. Question number 99 देखेंगे. Again a judgment based question is there. यहाँ पे एक judgment पूछा गया है. क्या पूछा गया है यहाँ पे? In which of the following cases the court observed that bail conditions and orders should avoid reflecting the stereotypical or patriarchal notions about women and their place in society, and must strictly be in accordance with the requirements of CRPC. So ये principle regarding bail, that what are the factors to be considered while the court is deciding the bail application. So what has to be considered, what not has to be considered. So regarding bail order, the bail condition, ये जो ruling थी, it was given in the case of Aparna Bhatt versus State of MP in the year 2021. So the correct answer is option B, that is Aparna Bhatt versus State of MP. और ये है इसकी सारी guidelines, जिसमें से जो guideline हमने देखी है, ये जो जितनी भी गाइडलाइंस हैं, these are regarding the bail orders or the bail condition. और क्वेश्चन में भी bail condition की बात की गई है, which was held in Aparna Bhatt versus State of MP. Option B is the correct answer here. Question number 100 देखेंगे. Which of the following case is the first cyber stalking case of the nation in India? इंडिया का पहला साइबर स्टॉकिंग केस इनमें से कौन सा है वो हमें बताना है. So that is Manish Katuria versus Ritu Kohli 2014. So option B is the correct answer. That Manish Katuria versus Ritu Kohli is the India's first cyber stalking case. ये इसके फैक्ट्स भी दिए गए हैं एंड जो रूलिंग इसमें दी गई थी वो भी दी गई है. बट द आंसर टू दिस क्वेश्चन इज Manish Katuria versus Ritu Kohli, option B. This is the first cyber stalking case which was witnessed in the nation. So that is about, so basically that is about the last question, question number 100 हमने देखा. So basically यहाँ पे we come to the end of the 100 question series. ये जो 100 questions मुझे आपके साथ डील करने थे, 50 हमने डील किए थे प्रीवियस वीडियो में. In this video we had discussed the remaining 50 from 51 to 100. And we have covered in all the 100 questions, we have covered all the segments of the syllabus of the Himachal Pradesh Judicial Services examination. And basically यहाँ पे हमने बैंगलोर कंडक्ट बेस्ड जो क्वेश्चंस हैं वो भी देखे हमने, स्पेशल लॉज जो लोकल लॉज हैं उनके क्वेश्चंस देखे हमने, माइनर लॉ के क्वेश्चंस देखे हमने, मेजर लॉ के क्वेश्चंस देखे हमने, केस लॉ बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस देखे. We also saw match the following questions. We also saw the reason and assertion question, the proposition and assertion question. So basically it was a blend of all the types of questions. So these are important questions for all those who are appearing for the Himachal Pradesh judicial exam, which is almost there. So if you are done with these questions, it will be basically, if you're doing these questions, if you are viewing this video, so basically it will be very helpful for your preparation. क्योंकि इन क्वेश्चन से आपका एक क्विक रिविजन हो जाएगा. You will be having a quick refreshing, or it will be a kind of refresher for you. It will be a kind of a quick revision for you, so that आपने जो भी पढ़ा है उसका एक quick test है. So you give yourself a test like this and prepare accordingly. So these are some of the questions which are very important. Please have a look at these questions because these are important and this will be very helpful for your revision. Last minute revision के लिए this is very important. So I wish you all the best for your exam. God bless you. May you succeed in all your exams. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Take care.